one of the things we talked about there was letting the mind of Yeshua be in you. Now remember, this is the Messiah whose whole life was focused on providing you with a way into the kingdom. In other words, everything about his life was an unselfish offering so that others could benefit. And yet, we're incredibly selfish beings. Selfish not because we're not generous, like getting stuff or giving to people, just that everything has to be about us. I mean, mostly we get bothered by and irritated by what other people do because it's not the way you would do it, or you think it's wrong, or it's all about you. Study the word so that the information is now available in you for the Ruach to connect together at the right moment. So instead of, because you could read, okay, so I've got in front of me John 14. It says, let not your heart be troubled, believe in me. I've got all these things. I can just read all of that. That's not studying necessarily. I may not remember it. But when you study it, and that means you're giving it a lot more intention and attention and your focus so that that stuff can go in and meditate on what is he saying, not trying to figure it out from a teaching point of view, just so you're actually like you're there and you understand the reason this is being said, who the audience is, and all that context stuff. Study it so that when life happens, the Ruach can grab a hold of one of those verses and bring it to your mind when it's appropriate. But you need to get real. You can't fix anything until you get honest with yourself and get real, okay? That's why they do what they do, like in Alcoholics Anonymous, is make you stand up in front of everybody and in a very real way, look everybody in the eye and admit you have a problem. And not just that you have a problem, that you understand what the problem is. And by the way, alcohol is not the problem. There's a reason why that person is drinking. That's what they need to figure out. What are you feeling that's causing you to go to this way of numbing that or avoiding that or whatever it is? But you have to be in a place where you're in that clarity, right? The mind of Yeshua. How can you love him correctly if you're in a delusional mindset? How can you love each other correctly in a delusional mindset? By the way, part of the symptom of being in a delusional mindset is the susceptibility to just receive information and not need to validate it, check it out, verify it. See, you all have this problem, because some of you are thinking, well, I don't see the medical profession in the wrong way, and I see politics clearly, and I see religion clearly. Really? But what about when somebody comes up to you and starts talking about somebody else? Do you start feeling the way that person's trying to get you to feel about that other person, even though you don't know if what they're saying is true? Oh, but they're my friend. They wouldn't make stuff up. Not that they're making it up, but it's filtered through their emotional delusion bubble filters. When we're trying to be vertical, I think you would probably guess that that is a high vibrational thing. Wouldn't he have like the highest levels of vibration? And so it's hard to really be tuned in when you're vibrating at such a low frequency. Not impossible, because he's designed it so that he can reach you at the bottom of your journey, so he can bring you out of your journey. But at times when you really feel like I want to get more connected, fasting purges the low vibrational things out of your system so that you can, it's almost like a reset so that you can get your vibration back where it needs to be. By the way, it also help your health in a good way. And so there's a lot of reasons why when people wanted to get closer to Yahweh, they would fast. So making a conscious effort to have Messiah's mind in you. So how do you do that? When a situation is going on, something is going on around you, is to consciously be aware of yourself and what's going on so that you can, with effort, say, okay, how would Yeshua respond to this? How would he feel about this? What would his mindset be in this situation that I'm dealing with right now? But you can't do that without two things. You have to, number one, be aware, self-aware. What am I feeling right now? And is it the right thing to be feeling? The second thing is, You have to have the ability to create space between the things happening and your reaction to them. We are so reactionary and so quick to respond that there's almost no space between action, reaction. I'm trying to give you something that you're not getting anywhere, okay? You can get people teaching you out of the book all day long, and that's great, and probably half of it's right, maybe, and that's fine, okay? And I've given you 500 teachings about all of this, but you're all still struggling, and you don't know why you're struggling, and I'm trying to help you understand. We are in such a high speed that none of us really does the thing we're told to do as a kid, which is think before you speak. Think before you act. Because if you were to do that, you could think, what would Yeshua do? How would his mind handle this situation? Not like what would he literally do, think about the life of Messiah, but if I had his mind, how would his mind respond to what's going on? There's a difference between the brain and the mind, okay? So I'm going to break it down in this way. The brain is your thinking, okay? That's thinking, your thought. Your heart is the emotions. The mind is those two combined, because that's where action comes out of, okay? Because you have a thought and an emotion which creates a mindset, okay? A mindset. So we're going to let the mind of Yeshua be in you. So it means an emotional reaction to a thought combined. So a Yeshua-like thought and emotion together. He says, I want you to love one another is not new. It goes back to Leviticus. It goes back all the way to the beginning. But he's saying, look, but I want you to love each other as I have loved you. Okay, so then we have to think about how Yeshua has loved you. Not just what you see in Scripture, but how he's loved you. Remember, it says, you have to, none come except the Father draws, and then he says, and then none come to the Father except through him. And so you're finding the Father was through a process of the two of them first getting your attention, and then once your attention was understood and you were drawn to seek the truth, the word, the Torah, the light, okay, the way, that then that would lead you back to the Father. But in doing all of this, okay, he's saying, think about what he did for you in that process. The mechanics of driving eventually become mindless. You're on autopilot. You don't have to really think a whole lot consciously. Now you were still paying attention and you saw the cars and made the turns and stopped at the lights and the stop signs or whatever you did. So it's not like you just ignored everything, but you didn't have to think about it in a conscious way. So the mechanics of Torah observance is very much the same thing. Now you got to do the same thing with the harder stuff. The mechanics of loving each other as he loves you.